All right, welcome back, everybody. Again, we got Mike and myself here for another episode of Relationship Wednesday. And I haven't said this the last couple of Wednesdays, but just remember that Relationship Wednesday is all about after I did. What does that mean? And we call it relationship management, trying to find the right words, but really it's about knowing how to properly recover from relationship drawbacks, drawdowns, because when you're living in this life, because relationships are our vehicles that gets us where we want to go in life. That's why the enemy attacks us so hard in relationships. And so I want to just to preface this. I know kind of jumping around a little bit. We've been in some good conversation about navigating our standards versus what we want, and our emotions of why we connect to different people. Just going through that. So again, just instant conversation. My goal is to make sure that we get it through a biblical. I don't want to say perspective because I don't believe God is a perspective. God is the truth. Basically, I just want to give it through the words, God's word side of things, so that we can um, work through it properly. Because as I see so much information of people out there on talking about relationships, but a lot of people are giving people and teaching how to move forward through with bitterness and unforgiveness, and try to move into a new situation while they still mad at the other person, or I don't know, just not really God's way of handling things. Just really more man's way of handling things. So it doesn't really bring, true, heal. But again, it's to really learn how to recover, after relationships. But I want to say this is that you got to think about relationships, the importance of relationships. Relationships are, they supposed the way God designed them to put, they're supposed to be vehicles, meaning that you have to know your purpose. And a lot of times, one reason why relationships fail, the main reason why relationships fail, because you don't know your purpose. When you don't know why you're here, it is hard to find the right relationships, because you will always find relationships that support your purpose. So if your purpose is wrong or you're not clear, that's why that's why we all, myself included, will always be out of balance in our relationships. That's why I look at like football teams. Football teams do it all the time. When you see GMs and coaches not clear on what type of team they want, you notice how they're not clear on the type of players they need to draft. They kind of mention max, but the teams and the GMs that know we want to run this type of offense, because like every quarterback is not built the same. Yeah. You got the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning types, then you got the Lamar Jacksons and the Jaden Daniels types, and and where they're built a little different and their play is different. So meaning that you have to have an offense that supports that the way they play, but you got to have a GM and a head coach that understands why. It controls the type of players, relationships that they're going to connect to. So meaning that you got to put it in perspective. Our bodies are on timers. Why? We've been put here for a purpose, to do something for a season. So we're not here just like, oh, I'm just here and I'm just living life or whatever. In other words, if your body's on the timer, that means you've been put here for a purpose, meaning that there are people that God going to bring into your life to get you to your destination, which means that Satan's going to try to put people in your life to move you away from your destination. So think of it like this. Knowing your purpose is your end game, like your goal, where you want to go. And then the people are the vehicles that help you get there. So, for example, let's use a practical situation. Let's say you want to go to Paris. If you want to go to Paris, we're here in America, which means there's only two ways you can primarily get to Paris, either by boat or by plane. I can't take no train. What's the point of even going get on the train try to go to Paris? I guess you ain't trying to go to Paris then. Why? Yeah, I don't know how to fly a plane. I need a relationship with the pilot to get me there. I don't know how to ride a boat. I need a relationship with somebody who knows how to drive the boat to get me there. So even though I may go to Paris, but I don't have the right relationships, I'm not getting there. Because relationships, so that's why I realized all relationships, in other words, you are a vehicle for somebody else, and somebody else is a vehicle for you. Right. So now it's about now one side is, yes, there is a sense of brotherhood and all that and sisterhood that can be connected through that. But okay, there's another side. Just open up a whole can of words by me saying that. There will be people that God put into your life that will be there for you. Not for what you can do, but there for you. Just like your brothers, meaning that whether and I'm not in your life for the things that God calls you to do. God put me in your life to be a support for you. Right. And basically saying no matter what you're going through, I will always be that comrade, that confidant, meaning to confide. In other words, I'm that person where like that Peter, James, and John. You in this life, you only get 2 or 3 of those where people are there for you. And so, in other words, and that's why I have to realize in marriage, that's why it's so interesting because then you have people in your life who are going to be constituents. In other words, they're like builders. I'm in your life for a season. So, like for example, let's say you plan on building a building, and you have contractors, people coming in. You may get to know them and everything, y'all cool and everything. Yeah. But once the building is done, they leave. Why? Because their purpose for their season was done. Even though y'all may went out to eat, y'all may have, but once the building was done, because we were constituents, we were people that were there to help build you up to this point. But after that, we fall away because the purpose for that season was done. We were your vehicles to get you to this point. But then you're going to have your confidence. So there are other people who were there in your life for the building after it was erected. So now these are the people that's in my life for a new purpose to move forward and maximize what we did. So you got to understand. And what happens is some people they turn people who are supposed to be in their life for a stage into forever, and then they get hurt and mad where they're only supposed to be in for a seat. Just all those type. But you got to be clear on purpose, and it takes away a lot of the noise. That's what I'm saying. And so I remember when I was Waniac. I was going to Atlanta. Waniac. That's what they called. Waniac was about smoking weed, getting girls, going to the club, making some money, living that life. You know what? I found friends that fit into that purpose. Yeah. Once Jesus got a hold of me, that guy said, I no longer was about getting high, getting girls, all that. So you know what happened? Those friends fell away because purpose changed. But here's the thing: my new friends didn't come right away, and it was a struggle for me because I didn't. And back to like what Mike was saying, I grew up with so much bad teaching. And let me say that right. That didn't come out right. My dad's a great preacher. I'm saying in a way, like the spirit of religion, the way I learned it was wrong. Yeah. And so, and what I mean is that I learned it through a religious lens. Meaning that so in other words, when I came to Christ, I had a hard time discovering my true identity. So I had a hard time finding the new people because I had a hard time discovering the new me. And so therefore I was kind of out there trying to find people. But the problem was because of religion and the way I learned it, I was having a hard time discovering the Christ me. So I didn't, but the more I began to discover the Christ me, I began to find who those people were for, that new guy. Because purpose had changed.
But then you kind of attracted them, right?
Right, kind of, yeah. We kind of attract each other. So in other words, and there was a girlfriend I had. Waniac had a certain girlfriend, but once Waniac had to die, that girlfriend had to go with Waniac. So Michelle's connected to the new guy. The other girlfriend stuck to the old guy.
You know what's crazy? I used to, say it. I used to be like infatuated with the hood rap. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, bro, I need a ghetto girl. Like I don't know what it was. I was like, that's my thing. Mm-hmm. And the more I started to shift in perspective, I realized, like, bro, what are you doing? And there's nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't represent who I am, and where I'm going. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And so and just back to our initial thing, when I begin to find my new identity, my boundaries start changing.
Sure.
See, because okay, think about it like this. What if you had a house with no property lines? How do I know it's your house? Mm-hmm. See, boundaries decide identity. So that's the part that people understand. When you know what is your boundaries. In other words, there's emotional boundaries. What makes you cry? Mm-hmm. What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Like these are signals that let you know what your emotional boundaries are. These are things that help you discover and define you. So in other words, before I used to go out and smoke weed, but I had a new boundary. I don't do that no more. Like that, it was a new boundary put in place.
What do you think about boundaries within the marriage? From a standpoint of, the man is normally got the wall up. Like I don't do the emotional thing. I don't really let people in. And you're married to a person that you're doing life with, but you've been taught for so long that men don't cry. We don't talk about these type of things.
So to me, I feel like everything goes back to vision. See, you set the vision first, then the boundaries are set to protect the vision. So let me give you an example of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between somebody who's out of shape versus somebody in shape? Boundaries.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is bringing structure to my eating and my workout. I'm not changing anything. I just changed the boundaries. In other words, I'm not eating, a whole piece anymore. Now I'm going to eat one slice once a week. It's a new boundary.
No, but I'm saying, like, do you think boundaries are good within the marriage when it comes?
But that's my point. I guess that's what I'm trying to say with my illustration is that there's no good or bad. It's only good or bad if it doesn't fit within the vision. So in other words, eating McDonald's every day, I mean, yeah, it can be unhealthy, but if it's not if you don't have no vision to get in shape, is eating McDonald's every day bad per se? If it's not killing you,
Well, I mean, it is, but
right. But here, my point I'm trying to say is that boundaries are there to protect the vision. It's not about boundaries. So a lot of times we make it more about walls, because walls are there to protect hurts.
right.
Boundaries are there to protect vision. So
let me switch it up. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. What about the walls? What I'm saying though.
no, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. This is what I'm answering your question through this way about vision. I'm saying that before you can set boundaries, say what the boundary is right or wrong, you have to be clear on what the vision is for the house.
Okay.
So because you can set a boundary, but if it don't support the vision of the house, then the boundary is bad.
So the vision of a blissful marriage, can you have boundaries within there?
It all depends. Okay. So what's the difference between a river and a swamp? Rivers have banks.
Okay.
A swamp don't have none.
Okay.
So a boundary is going to be made for things to flow, to make things alive, keep things living. So if I'm setting a boundary and things are still dying, then that's not the right boundary.
All right. Okay. I see where you're going here. I'm trying to figure out the people who marriages don't make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some type of hurt or pain that I never dealt with, and because I never dealt with it, my partner has to deal with the outlash or the whatever from how I feel, and I'm taking it into the marriage, and because I never let it go, it's destroying what is in front of me now. So that's more so what I'm talking, like the wall that we put up that we may not even know is there.
Right, but you see, the vision is not getting hurt.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's why the wall is there. Because my focus is on not getting hurt. Again, right. So since that's my vision, that's why I'm killing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So if the vision is to be in bliss and be prosperous in my marriage, then the boundary can't be there, or the wall can't be there because it doesn't align with the vision.
There you go.
So you have to have the vision.
You gotta have it right.
And I feel a lot of people go into marriages or relationships without the vision.
Exactly, and that's my answer to why I believe a lot of people end up in divorce. Because think what divorce means: D2, divorce vision. So we went into it with two visions, and those visions eventually imploded. And so one vision said, "I'm coming in here not to get hurt." The other vision is coming in, I want to make this, whatever, I want to love you. But because we had two visions, eventually we went to the courthouse as a physical manifestation of us breaking and pretty much warring against our visions the whole time.
Okay. That's good. So, okay, let's say we have that though. Let's say we don't have these walls up and we have this vision and we on the same track, but there's no equity in the marriage. And what I mean by that, we lose what got us here, right? So we dated, maybe kids came, maybe, jobs, whatever. But we never kept the main thing. So we never continue to grow together, right? Can you speak on like maintaining the equity within the marriage? So the little things, because I feel like if you haven't, like, if you aren't intentional about, for me personally, if I'm not intentional about dating my wife, continuing to honor her, continuing to make sure I'm pouring into her, every little thing that happens is like a strike. Like now, things are just adding up, and eventually they explode. Right.
So I get you. So this is this is like a default thing to work through those things.
Mm-hmm.
When you're, or I'm using the motorcycle illustration.
Okay.
So when you're on a motorcycle, if you have somebody behind you on there, when you go around the corner, they gotta lean with you. Because if they don't lean with you on the turn, then you can crash the motorcycle.
What if they don't trust you?
That's the whole thing.
And
that's what it comes back to.
On, and you leaning, and they
right, and that's what makes it dicey. That's what I meant by the dicey part. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it dicey, because if I went into it not getting hurt, mm-hmm. and you can't lean with me, then we can crash this vision, this marriage, because there is no such thing as a straight line in anything. Life always going to come with curveballs. If you on a boat, you're going to have waves and different things, and you got to have something that's going to keep you on course. And so, and one of the things, that's where communication comes from. Communication is not talking about stuff every day. Right. Communication is about creating an atmosphere by where when it's time to lean at this corner, we can both lean together. Right. But if I'm not creating an atmosphere of communication where we can lean together, then therefore you could be on one page and you could be on another, and you lean too hard, too far, because we didn't properly communicate how we're supposed to lean, and we didn't make this turn like we should, because turns are coming. You get married, turns are coming with parenting, turns are coming with job change, and at the same time, we have to realize that when you marry, there is no such thing as we stay the same. Who we marry in our 20s, a lot of times we got to grow as people, which means that we got to turn together, because who I'm going to be at 40, I got to be better than who I was at 20. So they're going to be that's a turn. And we got to be able to talk through these things to make sure we're turning together. So we got to. But when I'm coming into it not to get hurt, a lot of times the hearing and the communication can be distorted. So we're not turning like we should. So because now we're coming in with two visions, and that's why we got to make sure we're on one. Of course, that's why you got to leave your father and mother. What that mean? I'm leaving the ideas so that I complete my. That doesn't mean I'm married. That means that whatever ideas we have, we got to bring our vision together to be basically where we can now rock and move together. So that's why we got to train our kids to say, what you saw with us, it's going to probably be a totally different reality for you, because your situations and your turns and your things that you have to do, because people don't realize we have fingerprints. There's no one fingerprint, meaning that what you saw in your parents, even if it was perfect, your marriage will not be the same. Why? Because just like a fingerprint, I'm not wired exactly like my dad. You're not wired exactly like your dad. And she's not wired exactly like her mother. So which means that you got two individuals come together that in a union that has never been seen. Sure. So which means that I got to work from my imagination, not from my memory, if I want to actually build something moving forward. But if I keep using my memories of what I've seen, I'll never actually find a vision that's going to make, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord.
That's tough, because you're trying to recreate something that ain't yours. So if we're leaning into the motorcycle as we lean, so you going back to, if I had this wall up of not trying to get hurt, and then I have this friction with my spouse or what have you, and then there's no trust there, right? So I'm not fully trusting you because I'm still dealing with my old pain, and you can tell, everybody who's in a relationship, you can tell where this is not what I expected it to be. Mm-hmm. So if I don't trust you, you don't trust me, but we're still in this thing because society says or religion says we don't get divorced, and we're still trying to make it happen. When I say lean, you don't fully trust that I have a vision for us, so I'm not leaning. So the only way to do that is to make sure that I deal with whatever I'm dealing with before or during. You may not be able to deal with it before, but once you identify it, right, you're going to have to be able to say, all right, cool. So let me find out the vision for my marriage, right? And does this wall align with the vision? And if it doesn't, the wall has to go down, and you have to build a level of trust with each other. So when I say, like, if I'm the man, I'm the leader, or what have you, not saying I'm better, but if we're following the vision together, and I say this is where we can lean together, as opposed to not having that trust. And then if I say, yo, it's time to lean, then your spouse really don't trust that this is the right direction.
Okay, right? So I'm gonna answer that question, then we I know we got
because what I'm trying to do is like recap. So
no, I got it, but this is what I'm saying. So this is what I'm saying right here. There's a lot that you said in it. I heard that I'm hitting like I'm in a good flow here. Is this okay? Marriage is one of the. That's what I'm saying. Marriage is one of the most interesting unions of all, because usually most purposes of relationships are separated, meaning that when I have a friend that's a brother or sister, you're in my life because you see me.
Majority, yeah, right.
You're in it for me. Right. You're not in it for my business, whatever business I start, whatever. But then you have certain relationships that the people come to life because they're your partners. In other words, this is a little bit more performance based. This is more on, we're connected. Yes, we can hang out, but as long as you get the job done, we can rock and roll, and I can, like they be on football team. As long as I'm getting paid by contract, I'll play up like I love you, But if that money ain't there, everything can change, right? Because that's the partnership. Yeah. So these are based on conditions of what the business is about. So in a marriage, that's one of the only unions I've seen where you got to figure out how to mix the two together. Where they have to, so in other words, see, the trust part is how you see me. But the boundaries are about the in the checklist is about the partnership. But if I went into it only building the partnership, and we can make great partners, but we never saw each other in the love, then therefore it don't make the partnership work. So in other words, if I went into it because you meet the checklist, but never as the confidant, then therefore, because a partner don't always totally trust the person they in partnership with, because it's about getting the job done.
Well, if you meet the checklist, one might say, if you meet the checklist, then you my person.
No, right, but that's the problem. That's where we misunderstand, because the checklist is one side, which means that if you don't meet the checklist, then we can get a divorce because you didn't meet your end of the bargain.
Okay, right.
Because we're not in it for covenant, we're in it for contract.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So meaning that so in other words, trust is all about how I see you. Okay. It's not about what you can do. So if I see you as a person who can hurt me, all while we're trying to put these contractual rules in place, it's going to govern how we put our boundaries up.
So we'll say you to the person or the people that get married, and he meets the checklist, she meets the checklist, she starts to grow, he doesn't, her checklist changes, and she's like, well, you ain't meeting the new checklist.
Right. Yeah, because it was always a business arrangement. It was never out of a covenant.
And then out of that comes still divorce.
Because it still have two different businesses.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, but anyway, that's what I was going to say, is that I'm going to go back with my brother Rico said, I like one thing, we were talking about marriage ministries before, he called it 3 strands. And this is what I've realized is that in a marriage, nobody's perfect, everybody's going to make mistakes.
I'm kind of.
Sure, well, but anyway, what happens is that, I've talked to Michelle about this the other day. I said, that people didn't even know Jesus was the God when he was here. It even took Judas to pick him out when he took the people to go arrest him. Because Jesus didn't look like the Messiah. But the people who were able to recognize, they saw the Messiah, even though he didn't look like the Messiah. So in other words, in order to know the person, it really has to be caught more so than taught.
I'm good.
So in other words, I see you by revelation, not by your good works. In other words, there's somewhere along the way I caught who you are,
Sure.
not just by, because I understand, in other words, you may have made a mistake, but because I caught you, I'm not moved. My trust isn't shaken by your bad decision because I caught your heart.
Yeah.
But if I'm trying to measure your heart by all your choices and everything you're making by this business arrangement, I'll never catch your heart, never totally trust you.
Right.
And that's why I need God to come in and say, I trust you because God has given me the green light to see your heart versus your act. So I know that everything's going to play out right. And that's where maybe where Alicia has to get to. And all wise. In other words, I mean, that part, so I have to talk about, like, you got to be able to catch the heart of your man. Because understand, if he's a go-getter entrepreneur, sometimes, we, as like everybody, we always going to fail our way to winning.
Yep.
And you got to be able to know how to trust that God. In other words, I'm not trusting you because you make the right decision. God, I want to open my eyes to see the God in you. So I'm not trusting you because you're so good. I trust you because God has given me the green light to trust you. So I rest in that because now the marriage is based off of 3 strains. So now because the trust is there, we can, and I see your heart. Now we can work through the boundaries in the contractual side, in the partnership side of the marriage. But if it's just more partnership and that's not there, it can do all the boundaries, even in the good efforts, can destroy the marriage because it wasn't built on the foundation of love as the foundation. It was built on the partnership as the foundation.
Yeah, no, and I think my wife is there. Like, even in the season and where I am now, or where we are now, I think we both get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no, like, the journey that you must travel, you got to travel together.
Right.
And then we have to trust each other both along the way. And even myself, like, I had to get to a point where I wasn't like my way or the highway. Because that, like, headstrong, like, that's how I've been my whole life. Even like a football player, as a leader, it's like, no, bro, this is how we do it because this is what I know to be true. So, working it, like, being able to put pride aside, put ego aside, and say, all right, cool, how can we do this together? Like, and like you said, the communication part. And I think personally, I've grown to a space to allow my wife to be like her full self, as opposed to trying to please the expectation that I might set before her. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, I would encourage, whether you're married or not, and I think what it comes down to is like the foundation, like knowing who God is, because the more we know Him, the more we know who we are and the power that we possess. And then when we go into these relationships and into, these partnerships, whatever they might be, we're going in to add value as opposed to take from it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and then the equity part, I would tell my husbands, you gotta date your wife, like, all the time. And like, she's my girlfriend too, so I date my wife and my girlfriend. I be making stuff up.
Right, yes,
you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you gotta, like, cause we go through life and like things change constantly, and if we continue to be the wallpaper, then like it can get boring. You know what I'm saying? So I do my best to make sure, like, nah, that's my girl. I pick you up at 8 type thing. You know what I'm saying? We gonna date. We gonna make sure we keep us at the forefront, because us is how we got them, and not allowing the kids to become here and then the relationship to be here. You know what I'm saying? So we keep that there, and then if we're good, they get to see what good looks like. At least an example.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right? And they're not going to, like you said, they're not going to be, have our
marriage. Exact copy.
They'll see, like, oh, that's how you treat a woman. That's how you treat.
Some principles. So so we're gonna hit the pause button here. But I just want to say in conclusion is that God didn't need to create us, but He wanted companionship and fellowship. So you have to realize, if we come out of God, life is not about vacations and trips, because it's wonderful to go on cruises and stuff, but a lot of times it's more about who you do life with.
Yeah.
Because it's something in us that where we want to be able to have moments, but share with good people. And that's where we a lot of times feel part of our fulfillment, when we're sharing moments with the people that we love. You know what I mean? That's that whole thing. That's part of what it's about. And I'm saying is that because that's such a deep need, the enemy throws so many monkey wrenches and challenges in with that. And so I just pray that our conversations that Mike and I've had with you all over the last 3 weeks has been a help or some type of assistance to you all to be able to maybe help navigate that, because we want to share our world with the right people and have fulfillment. It's just making sure we know how to navigate it and properly, manage the right things and making sure that we are doing it in a healthy way we can get the most out of it versus doing it in a sense of where it's a sense of strain and work, and it's like it's hard. Good relationships shouldn't be hard. They should be easy.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're after. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say this week. But I think my brother Mike, he's always getting it done. Like, good perspectives and sharing and helping me co-pilot this thing. So with that being said, God bless you all. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you here next
Where
time.
you use your shirt from?
Dog culture.
Thank you for joining Pastor Wayne Powell Sr. for this edition of Relationship Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed this episode of After I Did. Let's keep the conversation going by leaving your questions and comments in the chat. We also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you are reminded to join us next Wednesday as Pastor Wayne continues this discussion of After I Did.